Mac Voices is supported by LinkedIn Jobs. Find the right person for your business today with LinkedIn Jobs. Pay what you want and get $50 off your first job post at linkedin.com/MacVoices. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is part 2 in a 2-part Mac Voices Live conversation with featured guest Mike Schmitz and a panel of the Mac Voices Live regulars talking about productivity tools. Mike started us out with why at the beginning of the pandemic he trashed all of his workflows and started over. And the panel jumped right in and talked about how they have adapted their workflows, some of the tools that they use, and the surprising fact that most of them are digital. And as we get toward the end of the show, I take back control. Here we go. Brittany, I want to get you in here because if I kept my notes correctly, Jeff uses a Moleskine, David is using a Rocketbook, Kelly I've kind of lost track of, but she has
haven't we
something.
All?
She has something like what Mike is using. Mike is and they're both using disk-bound notebooks. What do you use, or what do you have as a system for being productive or staying productive?
Talking about things that involve pens. What definition?
Like Jeff and I, Brittany has at least one 4-color pen. I know this for a fact.
I switched. I still have them, but I no longer carry them around because I moved to doing all of it on my iPad.
Oh, nice.
So, okay.
Hey,
so
back
now,
to computers.
Now we're back
with your Apple Pencil.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, see, there
Which
you go.
comes in all
Pencil on
colors,
a computer. Okay. That's it.
I mean, I have them. And if I have worked really hard to learn how to listen to my brain and know what do I need in this moment. I was raised typing. I thought all the generations would be like but then touchscreens. I thought I was going to be like a trendsetter, but now they all use touchscreens. But like I typed as much as I wrote as a kid very early. And so my brain is good with that. But I try to listen because sometimes what I need, especially in thinking, is my hand in a writing position. And that's what I need. And sometimes it's like, I need a big canvas, whiteboard. And I try to listen to what's the right medium for what needs to come out right now. But I don't keep paper around as a rule. Like I will use it, but I try not to have that be its permanent form forever, because then it'll just hide important things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's a great approach, by the way, to do it on the iPad with an Apple Pencil. I did that for years before switching to the notebook, inspired purely by the pandemic. But GoodNotes is a great app for that. I have my own template that I created and imported it as a PDF and filled that out every single day for quite a while. It's just nothing.
I transferred my printed worksheets for coaching clients and also for when I get coached by my coach. And they're all in GoodNotes and separate notebooks now. And I've automated, of course, because it's me. And, I use that a lot.
Does Scribble help replace some of that?
I haven't done it very much. It doesn't occur to me.
Part of that, though, comes, Brittany, if I'm not mistaken, from having the ability to write on your iPad screen as though it were paper, and having it be as responsive and having it be as representative of your handwriting as anything on a piece of paper could be.
It is absolutely exactly as unintelligible as what I write on paper. Yeah.
But you can change that to text.
Frank?
Sometimes.
Frank, the whole thing with Scribble for me is great in the moment. If I need to write something very quickly and very short, if I'm going to write something that's going to be multiple sentences, multiple paragraphs, Scribble for me completely falls apart because it doesn't work in instantaneous real time like a pen on paper does. So what I find myself doing when I'm using Scribble is I start writing as if I was on a normal piece of paper, and then I'm running out of room because Scribble has to catch up. And so then I'm now writing words in random places on my tablet so that they can show up where they're supposed to in the sentence, but it's this very disjointed thing. And now I'm out of the focus of what I'm actually doing. And I'm focusing it instead on where can I put a word on the screen so that that it will actually get translated.
Scribble for me is handy so that you don't have to put down your Apple Pencil and type something on a keyboard. But in terms of actually writing in an app like GoodNotes, I'm not gonna use that ever. And it's not going to add anything to the way that I use GoodNotes, which I still do use it, but not for the planning stuff. I use it for sketchnoting because I love being able to undo and try again. But
so like MindNodes?
MindNode would be separate app. I use that too for developing ideas. I love mind mapping for, like, if I'm going to write something, usually I'll get the idea, I'll put it in a mind map, flesh it out. The other place I'll use mind maps a lot is when I'm taking book notes. I will read a physical book, but I will have my phone with me, MindNodes in my dock, whenever I want to capture an image, or, if they have a diagram, I'll capture, put it in the MindNote, or I'll just jot down the stuff that's important to me. Then in the end, I've got, all the notes, and I export that as a PDF, and that goes into Realm Research. As a creative, like, I like having all the stuff that I've collected, all the dots basically, in one place. And then what I realized over the last several months is that my tasks should be there too, because my tasks are going to be building off of those dots that I've been collecting. Not everybody that's going to be true, but for me it is.
So once Brittany and Mike get together and start teaching Mind Map School, I need to sign up for that class. I need both of you to know when that happens. Give me a shout.
How do you mentally separate the tasks from the reference?
What exactly are you? Do you have an example?
Most people get a little paralyzed if their reference is mixed with their tasks.
I guess the thing that makes it work is being picky about what stuff goes in there, which is why I don't capture everything. I'll write stuff down in the notebook, like Kelly was talking about. And then at the end of the day, whatever, I'll look at that, and maybe I've got 10 things written down. And when I captured them, I think every single one of those is a great idea. I definitely want to do this. But at the end of the day, like, actually only one of those is any good. So that's the one that goes in as a task, is like, yes.
That's the ideal incubation window right there. I feel like that's the $1 million question.
Yeah. So I don't have everything, all the little things in there. It's basically like the big stuff that I know I want to write or create. And then from there, I've got all the different dots that can connect to that task. So if I say, I'm working on one right now, actually, on GTD style task management inside of Realm Research. So I'll have, that as a project with some tasks below it. But then every other place that I have captured ideas or links to GTD or Rome, whatever words you want, like, you just go in there, this got all the backlinks, you just boop, 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 and they're all connected. And now when I go to click on that task to work on it, I've got all that reference material right there. Then I open that up in the sidebar and I go through all the stuff that I've collected, different articles that I've read, books that I've read, stuff like that.
That's so funny. It was because it was David Allen's the first place I heard, don't reference and task, but it sounds like they're mostly related to the projects, and you're going to be looking there anyway.
Yep. But
probably
again,
don't have go get milk there.
No, you've got to have got to have a high signal to noise ratio in order for this to work. Like, all of the dots that are in there are specifically creative dots, because creativity and productivity to me are very much the same thing. For somebody who has a whole bunch of extra tasks that are outside of the domain where they primarily work, I wouldn't recommend that you try to do what I'm doing. But for me, it works.
And it sounds like the reference is really highly curated.
Yes, very highly curated. I forget who came up with this, but there was somebody recently who talked about, like, the different approaches to all this different reference material. You've got the Evernote people, the DevonThink people. They're kind of like the librarians, where they're just going to collect everything that they can. And then you've got the people who are the engineers, and they're going to use something like Notion. And then you've got the gardeners, which are people who are going to use Realm Research or Obsidian or something like that, with all of these different backlinks and things, because you're just going to see what grows there. I don't know if
I think it was Cortex.
Cortex, but there's is it Nest Labs who first wrote about it? There's a really great post about it from many, many months ago.
So
yeah, and I just want to hire an archivist and just send them the stuff I come across.
So I have to ask, but go with me on this just for a second. Brittany, I know you play golf. Anybody else play golf here?
I've played.
Okay.
David has.
Yeah, my whole childhood I played golf with my dad all the time. Yeah.
Okay, so there's something in golf called paralysis by analysis, that you keep your head down, keep your left arm straight, balance on the balls of your feet, then shift your weight back, then shift your weight forward, keep your head still, for God's sake, and pretty soon
you got to keep your head down.
Yeah, and you've forgotten that your objective is to hit the ball. And so, Mike, and I'm probably guilty of some of this. I'm sitting here listening to you guys, and I'm thinking, how do I do what I do? But it sounds like you, Mike, I'm going to point to you and maybe some of the others too, that you spend a lot of time moving between systems and sometimes even moving information between systems. First of all, is that a correct perception? And second, is that counterproductive?
Well, I would push back a little bit on the Mike changes systems all the time. I tend to actually be very stuck in my ways, but recent history doesn't back that up. Again, global pandemic, so that's my excuse. But you're right. If you're constantly switching things, then you're moving things all the time. That's not going to be productive. You spend so much time building your systems instead of working your systems.
Well, and don't misunderstand. I did not mean that you go from Atomic Habits to GTD to I was talking about, okay, Mike sits down at his desk at 8:00 in the morning, and he completes this task, but then it sounded like some of the results of that task move over then to this other system, and so within your, not whether I'm trying out different systems. We should all try different systems, but within your working system, it sounds like you move a lot of information around.
Well, I have a mantra: computers are for creating. So at the beginning, well, actually not even in the beginning of the day, really the night before, I will go into Roam and see what's coming up. And this is kind of like a digital bullet journal. So everything that's tagged with a certain date is going to show up on what's called a daily notes page. And I'll look at the tasks that I've got to do from there, copy those to the notebook, time block, look at my calendar, what are the appointments that I've got, fill those in, and then work around that. But then when I am in the middle of my day, I'm not in Roam. I am in probably Ulysses or Google Drive if I'm working on a podcast outline, or ScreenFlow if I'm building a video. And that's kind of the point, is that I've got my notebook right here with my couple of tasks to keep me on track. Like, hey, this is what you said you're going to work on today. And then I am in my app of choice, and I'm not worried about any of the other stuff. If anything else comes at me, I'll jot it down in the margin of the notebook. And at the end of the day, as part of the shutdown, everything that I want to keep gets put back into Roam Research, plan the next day, rinse and repeat.
Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by LinkedIn Jobs. Make your next great hire with LinkedIn Jobs. The holidays are quickly approaching. Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and beyond. And in spite of the state of things, there's still a great deal to be thankful for. We have better tools and resources than ever before to accomplish our objectives. One of those is LinkedIn Jobs, for when you need to ramp up your business. I look to LinkedIn because of their 706 million members worldwide. The fact that I can manage job posts right from my iPhone or iPad. The fact that I don't have to throw out a job posting to the wind and see where it lands, but can use screening questions to target the most qualified candidates, saving the time and effort of weeding out those who just aren't the right fit. You can do all that and more, like managing the whole process from a single LinkedIn page that looks like exactly what you already know. Simple, efficient, flexible. That's what sets LinkedIn Jobs apart. When your business is ready to make that next hire, find the right person with LinkedIn Jobs. You can pay what you want and get the first $50 off. Just visit linkedin.com/MacVoices. Again, that's linkedin.com/MacVoices to get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks to LinkedIn Jobs for their support of Mac Voices. I'm not picking on you. I'm really trying to understand. When we started the show, I think you were a little like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're almost at the end of the show, and I haven't even gone to Plan B. So this has been
Chuck, when you say systems, you mean switching between the pen and paper and stuff on your computer, right? Analog to digital. That's the part that you're talking about, switching systems, right?
That would be part of it, Kelly. But okay, so I'll pick on David for just a second. If I understand the Rocketbook thing, he writes the stuff in the Rocketbook, then he takes a picture of it, then he goes and throws the Rocketbook in the microwave, and so he's taking that information. What?
Actually, no, I'm wiping it. I have a wipe and I use the cleaner. I have never even put this thing in the microwave.
Oh, okay. Well, but that's sort of the same.
Microwave is just batch delete.
What's even the point then, David?
Yeah.
You're using technology.
Yeah, but the idea that he does something in the Rocketbook, then transfers over to his phone. That's what I'm asking. I'm questioning how much friction should there be, or how much friction does that create in your productivity when you're having to shift information and move between those systems? That's what I was asking. Make sense?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I really want to know what Brittany's going to say, though.
Yeah, I was going to say
wanted
Brittany.
Mike to talk first.
Mike, you want to respond to that, or you just want to?
Sure.
Brittany.
So the problem with computers, in my opinion, is that they provide not only the ability to create, which is really what I want to use them for, but also a doorway to distraction at any given moment with all the different apps that can vie for your attention. So if you really want to know how unproductive you are, look at something like screen time and you'll instantly see that all that jumping back and forth that you're doing, you think you're going back and forth between your calendar, your task manager, your office tools, but really you're spending 2 hours on Twitter or
YouTube,
a bunch of time in Facebook. Yeah. So number one, understand where you're working from. What were you going to say, Kelly?
Well, just what I would say, Chuck, is that before I accepted the notebook into my life, it was a disaster. I was supposed to be entering all this stuff into something and I wasn't doing it. And I'm not at my computer, or I put it in my phone and my phone doesn't sync, and so it's still not in my computer, or I type something on my computer, but I don't have it on my phone. And everything was a mess. And so if I know that when I need to look up the thing I did for daily observations that time, I go here. I had to leave a little bit ago because UPS showed up at the door. So Chuck, if you want to get back to tech, we can get back to tech. But I also ran downstairs really fast and got my notebook. So this is where all of the daily observation shows live. And so I'm just going to open it and show what a page looks like. And so it looks like this. So you can see the date and the show, and then I'm not showing you anything rude, am I?
iPhone shows up at 9 o'clock. iPhone shows up at 10 o'clock.
Sometimes I show bad words. And so, I have the date, I have the episode number of the show, the initials of the people on it, and what we discussed. So I have that going back for ages, and you can tell when something ran out of ink, because then I was using the different colors of ink then. And I was using those ink colors in my Hello Kitty Kaleido 4-way pen body.
Nice.
So, and you know what? I love Hello Kitty. I love my pen, and I love the limited edition Hello Kitty ink that is in my Hello Kitty pen. So that's Hello Kitty out the side of my pen. And because I like my pen and because I like my notebook, get to know Kelly through the stickers on her notebook, right? So because these are the tools that I have that I like to use, I sit down and write it all down. And it makes it much easier to do that because I have tools I like. And so the friction that you're talking about, it has to be the right amount of friction. I think this is probably something Mike can get with me on. Because we talked about paper and pen, some paper and pen doesn't work together very well. And that was my problem with trying to do everything digitally. I'm supposed to have it all in here, and it's all supposed to be easy and fantastic. And sometimes it's not. And, sitting down and writing things down analog is the thing that makes the difference. So when I have to scribble everything, It's that ounce of it. Like, I like writing with my pen. I like writing in my notebook. So Mike showed his beautiful leather cover. Here's what mine looks like. Again, get to know Kelly through the stickers on her notebook.
Yeah. It's kind of like the inside of your head, Kelly. Yeah.
It's a lot like this.
You have no idea how much worse that is.
Yeah, this is a lot less cluttered than the inside of my head, but yes, this is where we are. So, like I have tabs in mind for different stuff that I do. This is not the house notebook. The house notebook, like I said, is the full size one downstairs, but it's the same sort of blue cover, and then it's just disc bound, and so I can pull it apart and put other stuff in here whenever I want to. So, like, Mike, you were talking about the tabs across the top. What I have is just this paper. This is where my little scribbly to-do lists go. Nice. Is on this little tab of paper that then I can tuck in kind of as a bookmark in behind all my other pages. I have some graph pages. I have some lined pages for different things that I'm trying to do. So, like, I've done everything with all the kinds of, like, yeah, there's a CD in here. Oh, yeah.
Mike, you said You said intentional friction.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what counts.
You want friction in the right places, though. For me, I want intentional friction in the capturing phase, not in the doing phase. So using a task manager, typically for me, those are reversed because it's so easy to throw stuff in there. As soon as I think of something, and it was control space, I think, was my OmniFocus shortcut. Pull up the quick entry, throw everything in there, and then you end up with thousands and thousands of tasks. And you go in there to look at what you were going to do. And number one, if you've got like arbitrary due dates on stuff, you get a whole bunch of red over red stuff, which is telling you you're a horrible person and you can't follow through on what you said you're going to do. But even if you don't have that, you've got, there's the thing I should do. Oh, look at that. There's 999 other things I could do. And my brain would automatically go to those things instead.
Yeah. Right. Because then you see, like, I forgot all about that thing that I put in last June that was in my someday file. And now that's the only thing that I can think about. Not what I'm supposed to be doing in 10 minutes. Instead of writing this article that's due tomorrow,
I should really be planning that trip to Italy that I thought I was going to take, 5 years from now. Yes. Now is the time I should be thinking about that, is what my mom was saying.
Now that's where my brain is at. Yes. And how much Italian do I need to learn? And can I get an app that will teach that? And you're off to the races. Yeah.
Brittany, you waited for Mike to speak first. And I wanted to make sure you got to say whatever you were going to say.
It's related. By having this habit, he sort of said it, like that's where his ideas go. But what it means is the only things that go in have so much more intentionality. Because if you're able to follow through on and have the discipline to do that, it means he's curating everything that goes in because he's having to type it in. And when you don't do that, when you don't have a way, you either have to use more mental energy to do review to get rid of it, or more physical energy to copy the thing over.
See, I'd argue, though,
it's an energy trade-off.
With all those things listed, at least for the way I write, some of those ideas that you'll look at and maybe dispose of, for me, work as springboards for other ideas of stuff that I end up doing. So,
should it be your main task list? Or should it be a reference then?
Right.
Well, no, it's not a task list.
And put in
from when I got coached.
One at a time.
Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, no, I just, for me, is sometimes I'll think of something, I'll type it in, and I'll look at it later and I'll go, boy, that's garbage. But there'll be an iota of something there, a kernel of some kind of idea that could springboard off in a 180-degree different direction. And
when you look at, this is why I do have my old notes from when I was coached, is there, you have extra stuff to trigger your memory when you were looking at the same thing you looked at when you had the idea. Of course, they're in my iPad, which is easier to access. But yeah, like seeing where you wrote it, if you're talking about original idea generation and trying to go back to that, it does have value. seeing it the way you wrote it with the other visuals, it can give you more cues to trigger those memories and inspire you to have more ideas.
So real quickly here, I think creativity for me is a formula. In fact, for a long time, I thought that I was not creative because I couldn't come up with anything completely original. And then I read Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. And he basically gave me permission to be creative because he said that when you create something, essentially all you're doing is connecting dots in ways that haven't been connected before. So the dots themselves are not original. And at that point, I was like, aha, if I want to create better stuff, I need better dots. That's where the book notes.
That's true.
And I throw them in there.
Yeah.
And even before I was throwing them inside of Rome, I believe that, I'm reading this book, I'm collecting these dots, and I may never know how these are going to connect, but the fact that they're there gives my brain a bigger toolbox to work from. And whatever comes out of it is fine because I've connected the dots and now my brain's going to do its thing and whatever comes out, comes out.
See, that's my weak point. I don't have a brain.
That's the only difference.
Oh, Frank. Like part of for me, the writing down is that I do like the act of writing is not terrible to me. I have decent handwriting. I can go back and read it again later. And I like the act of it. And there's something about writing down that somehow, even if it's in pencil on a napkin and I'm going to toss it, it feels more permanent. And it's a thing that I remember. I remember stuff that I wrote a lot, but that I remember, if nothing else, I remember that I wrote it down way more accurately and way more often, I guess, than if I typed it. Like partly because like, when I type, like that's just sort of brain dump. Like I don't have to think about touching the keys. I've sat in front of a keyboard for basically my whole life. I type over 100 words a minute. If it's just coming out of my brain onto the page, it's easy for me. It's never, ever, ever been a hurdle. I don't have a physical limitation. I'm very good at spelling, so spell check doesn't have to work for me. I don't have to worry about autocorrect or anything like that most of the time if I'm typing on a full-on keyboard. So for me, the act of typing isn't the issue. So like I can bang out hundreds and thousands of words at a time and not think about the actual act of typing. And if you come back and ask me something that I typed, I may not be able to remember it. But everything I scribbled down in here with my Hello Kitty note, with my Hello Kitty 4-color pen, yeah, I can probably tell you, like, I remember it was orange. Let me go back and see. I know I've got it somewhere. And I can recall that a lot better. And Brittany, you may be able to help with this. I think there's science behind the handwriting piece,
the Oppenheimer,
like etching it in your brain better than typing.
I have certainly read that. I'm not sure if it's always true for me, but I'm also a weirdo that they didn't test. I mean, my brain was so plastic when I started typing a lot. Like I was 5 or 6 and I was typing instead because I didn't like writing because my handwriting was terrible and it was awful. So I've been typing as long as I've been writing. And so I don't know if that's a profile of neuroplasticity or just that I'm weird. But there are some things, like I said, I try to listen to my brain. Like, what does it want right now? Mm-hmm. Is it a pen-like gesture, probably with an Apple Pencil, or is it a typing thing? And I very smoothly move between them. But you're right. Some people have done studies about class notes, although I took class notes typing and it was glorious. So. Yeah,
I think there's a difference there too from creating versus like the retention from class notes. So if in my personal opinion, I have no problem sitting down and typing when I'm going to create, but I prefer to not even take analog notes when I am trying to retain information. But that's why I got into the whole concept of sketchnoting, because I recognized that I was remembering more when I jotted it down analog. And then I'm like, because you can't keep up, you can't just capture word for word when you are writing things down. And then I'm like, if I have to create a mental picture for this, I bet I'll remember that.
Oh yeah, because it's what's called deep processing.
Yep.
So those ones will get processed more deeply because you're making a picture, you're having to create your own thing, but you do get some of that by rephrasing what you're hearing. I also used it as a trick to keep my brain still listening.
Same.
And yeah, like the typing memory thing usually that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Friends, I want to hop back to something that you mentioned a few minutes ago, because it's just been kind of percolating in my mind. You said that you write things down, you don't know where they're going to end up going, and you may want to come back to them later. To me, that's what I call my transient concepts. And those are things that are important enough that I want to write them down, but it might not be something that I'm going to act on right now. And since I'm using paper for a lot of this, those things go on Post-it notes. I can put it on the page and then move it farther into the notebook so that it's at the place where it needs to be. And then ultimately, when it becomes something I'm going to act on in some way, now it comes off the Post-it note and gets written on the page.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I hate to break this up.
That's what I use these for, to drop to drop that. It's the same sort of thing. Like if I have some like a someday file kind of a thing, like I can scribble them on these little skinny notes, and then these can get tucked back into whatever section it is, or stashed away for later, for when I want to come back and revisit whatever that was, and then continue on with, riffing on whatever that kernel was there that I had when I started.
Guys, I hate to break this up, but we're over time, and I want to make sure we have time to let everyone know where they can find you. But thank you. This has been fascinating. I mean, in some ways, I feel like we were all over the place, but I also felt like there was a lot of good information and comparing of systems, and I'm hoping we got some people to think about it, about what they do and how they do it. And Mike, thank you. I mean, you kind of started this off by saying you trashed your existing systems and started over, and that takes a lot of guts to do, because down that path there are a lot of things that could go wrong. So, thank you for taking the slings and arrows for us.
You're welcome. I hope it was entertaining for people.
Well, this group, it's always entertaining with people. I hope it was informative. So again, we'll just go around and let everyone know. And Mike, we'll start you first as featured guest. Thank you again so much for being here. Where can folks find what you're doing now?
You can find the writing over at thesweetsetup.com. I also do a couple of podcasts, one called Focused with David Sparks. So if you like this sort of conversation, we dive deep on this kind of stuff on that podcast. Also Bookworm, which is bookworm.fm, where Joe Bulig and I read a different productivity type book every couple of weeks, which is where a lot of this stuff for me comes from.
You're not going to give Rachel any credit for the other show?
Oh, sure. We can throw that one out too. The Intentional Family. That is primarily Rachel's show, by the way. She does all the prep work. I just show up and record and do the editing and the posting. But we, at the beginning of the pandemic, started a show. intentionalfamily.fm is the website for that one. Just to try to help people who maybe found themselves homeschooling and never really wanted to. Trying to, not just survive the pandemic, but, thrive through it. When everything got shut down, a lot of things changed, but one of the things we noticed was that we had a lot more time to spend together as a family, which is either good or bad. When everything is locked down, it kind of amplifies what's really there. And so we've heard from a lot of people who are trying to improve their home life, and we don't confess to have it all figured out, but want to just share what we know.
Great. Thanks again for being here. And folks, just in case you missed it, I just saved Mike from sleeping on the couch tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Smooth, Chuck. Well played.
All right.
Mr. Gamet, where can folks find you?
I'm really easy to find. I'm pretty much everywhere. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Jay Gamet, both places. And actually tomorrow night, so that will be Wednesday, October 28th, I am moderating a panel for a brand new meetup group called, it's a meetup group for Zapier users. And so tomorrow night's meetup is how to get in the automation mindset and an introduction to Zapier. So I'll be moderating the panel. Maddie Osman, Joe Casabona, and Jimmy Rose are going to be talking about all the cool things they're doing with Zapier, and I'll probably chip in a few of my things too.
Great. Thanks, Jeff, for coming. Always good to see you.
It's always a blast.
Mr. David Ginsburg, the guy who's probably had the least amount to say this time around.
Yeah, it was. I tried, but I talk about my Rocket Book. It's like you got that out of me. You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com, and I'm on Twitter at DaveG65. Thanks again, always having me, Chuck.
Great, thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Mr. Petrie.
I show up every now and then here on Penn Voices Live. I write a monthly review for Screencast Online magazine. I have ympnow.com as my blog, at fpetrie for Instagram and for Twitter. And just had a great time. This is fantastic.
Yeah, this was.
And I want some more peanut butter.
Thank you.
I didn't get in on the peanut butter wave. I'm a little bummed.
We'll have to talk, Kelly.
Since Brittany, things have rearranged a little bit, so you're next in line on the screen.
Hey, I'm Brittany. I'm the ADD Liberator on Twitter. And coming up a week from Thursday, you can find me speaking at the International Conference on ADHD about technology and health and ADHD, obviously.
Great.
So,
thanks for being here. Thanks so much. Last but absolutely not least, Ms. Kelly Guimont.
You can find me over here with my phone. Thank you. No, it just came. I'm so excited. You guys don't even know. Like, Chuck, it is a measure of my love and adoration for you that I'm not already over there backing up and restoring all of my stuff to my new phone and have forsaken you. So know this. It's still in the box because of how much I adore you, that I want to sit here and hang out and talk to Mike about his pens and his notebooks or anything else. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram as Verso, as we talked about earlier in the show today. You can find me hosting the Jeff Gammett's former program, the Mac Observer Daily Observations podcast, 5 mornings a week over at macobserver.com. Yesterday, what's today? Today is Tuesday? So Monday, Monday's show was an interview with James Thompson of PCalc, and it was a lot of fun to get to talk to him. So if you get a chance, you should go see what he had to say. And the rest of the time, you can find me over at the Incomparable Network, where we have just put together a holiday surprise for people later this year. And I have a show there myself called Greetings from the Uncanny Valley that I do with Don Melton, where we talk about Westworld. And the rest of the time, I'm there talking about a little of this, a little of that, and a lot of Star Wars. So you can find me over there talking about different things. And last but not least, I can tell you that I'm about to make an appearance on Systematic because Brett Terpstra texted me while we were recording this and wants to know when I'm available. So I'll be over there soon too.
Cool. Great. Thanks for being here, Kelly. It's always a blast. Really appreciate it.
Apparently my Instagram's going to get a lot more interesting. So you may want to go over there.
So, folks, I want you to know something. I said I was going to do it, and I'm going to do it because me and my cheap plastic pen have a little secret. We have a mute all button. And so I have just muted everybody, so I get the last word. I'm Chuck Joiner. This is Mac Voices Live on Facebook. Again, every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Really appreciate you being here. I've got control. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.